everyone. I have a day off. What is that? I can't believe it. It's insane. I don't ever have downtime, and so I'm excited because I have so much I want to put out and so little free time. Uh, I really want to talk about the passivity in the spiritual community. I know I have gone over a lot of the kind of toxic positivity going on in the community. Um, but I feel like the passivity is something that needs to be addressed. And we have to be very aware of the conditioning, grooming, intentional brainwashing, and the castrating, if you will, of our spiritual balls, okay? Ovaries, I don't care, whatever. It's like we have been basically emasculated, impotent, whatever what term you like to use, that we have been told not to wield spiritual authority. And also, the spiritual community has kind of taken that and run with it in a lot of half-truths, and half-truths are always lies. And that is like peace and que sera, sera, and let's just lay around and let things happen. Which, as you know, there's kind of a big split even in the spiritual community, because you have those that want to make everything happen, like the law of attraction, and make everything what you want, force things to be what you want. If you don't have enough money or the perfect partner or that Mercedes and mansion, then you're doing something wrong. You don't have enough faith, or you're not doing enough positive confessions. You're not in alignment. You haven't jumped timelines. And can we go on, right? Um, and then you have the kind of passive ones, right? That are really empty and always seeking to be filled with something, but yet at the same time not willing to lift a finger to change their circumstances. And if people were to read ancient texts and then misinterpret them, then that can't happen. And granted, some of these ancient texts were very admirable because they were written by men in a culture where men were often looked at as the more control you had, the more of a man you were. So if you were to look at it in the context and the times in which they were written, some of the things that Jesus said, that the Bhagavad Gita had written in it, and other ancient texts where men were telling you to uh, not try to force things, to not try and be in control, to hand things over to the creator and the higher powers, and or to turn the other cheek, or to let go of how things play out. Like, I know I've mentioned this in previous videos, how that charlatan that channels Bashar, and one of the things that people boast about is him claiming that you should pursue your passion and your heart's desire, but let go of how it is, the results, like let go of the results. I'm like, that is appropriation. That's not channeling. Okay, Buddhists and ancient Hindu scripts and things have said this for a long time. That is nothing new, nothing original, but it reaches out to that kind of white privilege crowd. Um, and I'm aware that people of all races and faiths and things listen to these charlatans, but the point being is there's so many in the spiritual community that, because of their privilege, it blinds them to the truth. Because of their upbringing in a world where everything was handed to them, they assume that passivity will just bring them more goodness, and they're trying to separate themselves from ego. And I could go on and on with the law of attraction thing, but I've done some videos on that. So I really want to focus on the passivity thing and the appropriation of ancient texts, and the misunderstanding of why they were written or who they were written by. And a lot of it was from a view of privilege too. If you look at some of the things that Solomon said and did, and you look at some of the things written in the Bhagavad Gita, you're seeing something that is like from the view of a man that has everything. not necessarily like Jesus himself, but a lot of the, I say things that Paul said, okay? If you come from a place of privilege as a man and you are the dominant um, species and the dominant race and the um, dominant sex, it's like it is more admirable to be a little bit less, um, violent or filled with rage or whatever. But this kind of toxic positivity and passivity is also enabling insane amounts of evil, genocide, child abuse, animal abuse, and torture and unnecessary deaths and the destruction of the planet itself. And there's no excuse for it, and we have no place for it. And it is so vile and evil to the great creator that there is no space for you in eternity if you're going to be that type of person. And what brought this up is because, I've mentioned this before, that I really want to teach people a lot because I have spent so much time in the womb of isolation with my mother, the creator. Sorry, I should say my mother Earth and the Father God creator. And I guess they're all kind of one. Some people prefer to say goddess, what have you. Um, I do sort of like the ideology of the masculine, feminine, and the creator and the Mother Earth, just because it's such a beautiful analogy. But in reality, we know that the great creator is both masculine and feminine, and so is the Earth. So I'm sure that the slip was for a greater good than myself. But what I wanted to get at is like, first off, a lot of these so-called positive and pacifists and things, and a lot of times, even if you don't see yourself as a pacifist, but you want to focus on the law of attraction and you want to create your own reality, and you see this world as a simulation and your playground, not only are you not taking the pain and suffering of others seriously, if you're just seeing everything as this, what is, how do so many toxic positive people put it? It's like, the world is a mirror. AI is a mirror. Everything's a mirror, okay? Um, and I'm not saying that like everyone's toxic that says that. I'm not even saying that everything's not. Like, it is good to contemplate on things being a mirror of us. But what I'm getting at is like if you're using that as a cop out to not help other things, to see, be egocentric, let's say that way. It's so strange how so many spiritual, um, I don't know, babies, they always want to separate themselves from their ego, and yet they're so egocentric. Like everything's about them. Nothing around them is as important as them. And it's creepy, to be honest. Very, very creepy. Um, and the point I'm making is like, these people can be extremely dangerous and violent, and their cognitive dissonance is so bad that if you challenge what they've decided to believe, they might become not so passive. Okay. And I say this because a lot of people that stumbled into the charlatans that channel Theo and Bashar, and there's all of these, YouTube channels, and they get hundreds and thousands of views. And they have all of these Charlotte, the John of the New, who's really probably Judas. Like, he's such a fucking creep. These people that make shit up and they channel shit and they act like they're good people, and they are not. They're so dangerous, and they talk in circles, and I'm like, boo boo, I could channel better than you when I was like a child. I'm sorry. I can. I typically don't. Like, if I'm really moved, like by the spirit, the ultimate spirit, I can write words that are so intensely rich and beautiful and powerful that it's like an incantation and it's potent. But these channeling, like, where the way they talk in circles and vague, if you watch the way these channels work, and the reason why I bring this up a lot is because I want people to watch what I'm saying and learn how to be able to test the spirits and understand that these are charlatans. Is even if they're really channeling something, okay, um, they're channeling spirits that want to be worshipped and harvest energy from people. And as the person is sitting there going, oh, yes, the Great Council is saying, oh, yes, we want you. Yes, we want you. And they repeat a lot like that. That's when the spirit or spirits are like kind of latching in. It's like their fangs or like they're kind of like suckers, like a leech is all like, suctioning on and getting a good grip and siphoning energy from the channel. And the channel may not know because they're siphoning from you, the viewer. And now, not if you don't believe they're not going to be able to get as much energy. You may some because your focus is on it. So obviously, you're sending energy in that direction. Energy goes in the path of least resistance. This is what these spirits know. They have no connection to source. They have no love. They have no light in them. They are incapable of being able to exist without feeding on the life and the life source that's in living things. And so that's why they need us. And, they have been able throughout history, been able to fool people somehow, whether it's through politics or through the church pastor who is highly repetitive. I don't know if any of you ever had to suffer through going to church growing up. Oh my fucking God. The way that they will repeat stuff and talk the same three sentences in 500,000 different ways and yet somehow say nothing at all. And it's like, did you even read more than one verse in the last year? That's what these things do. And it's not about the message. That's why the messages are so vague. Okay. When I have channeled actual things before, I could tell you where things were that I should not know. I could tell you what they did that no one knew that they did. And then they would find out that this really happened. These people channeling these so-called like Archangel Michael and Mary Magdalene and these councils of angels and aliens and beings, they have absolutely zero proof. And yet people believe it. Like they can't tell you where a dead body's buried. They can't tell you where this is or that is like I've been able to do before. They literally talk in vague bullshittery. And that's deliberate because the things that they're channeling are not who they say they are. They have no real information to give you. And 99.999% of the prophecies they supposedly say end up being so wrong and so off, or they're so vague that you could think that maybe it will happen one day. But go back and watch the old ones. Go back and watch the channel messages from 3, 4, 5, 6 years back. We were already supposed to be on spaceships. They already landed and we already had a great apocalypse and a resurrection and we've already gone up to space with aliens, okay? Why is nobody going back and with goldfish brains? Like, how many of the spiritual community is just not going to look back and justify their willful incompetence that is destroying the planet by your passivity, by your privilege, by your quote unquote positivity? Enough is enough. And the reason why I do these kind of messages, it is a warning, it is warning you to get off this path. And if, any of you agree with me, it's great. I value being in an echo chamber and that's good. But, it's like if I was just in an echo chamber, obviously I'm not helping anyone. And so I'm glad if you agree with me some, but I almost want to challenge you to come outside of a bubble. So if you agree with me, then fight with me, fight with me. Don't shut up. Don't lay down. That's what they want us to do. They want us to just walk away from the human race and just give up. And, they'll shadow ban us. They will keep us so busy and so sick and so occupied that we don't really get out there. But I don't know if any of you have gone through what I've gone through, but, you'll meet some really amazing spiritual people. And then they want you to watch these channels that are fake. And they'll want you to watch TV shows that are awful, like they'll push the Chosen series where within the first 5 minutes, I knew it was bad. I knew it was before then, but I wanted to give it a chance when someone tried to get me to. And, I knew from the very beginning it was really, really bad, like, misogynistic and creepy as fuck. And, it's like, I don't want to judge these spiritual people. Like, it's kind of like, I don't know how I'm ever going to be able to do this, to make amends with, like, say, the Christian community or like the far right community, because, you hate to be like, so, what's that word? mm, offensive, but it's like something else. It's like oppositional, because if I come off as oppositional, they're not going to receive from me and they're just going to be angry. And I mean, you saw again, like, you know, what happened to Mr. Kirk, and I'm literally calling it like getting kirked now, like you get too belligerent. And yes, I knew from the very beginning too that it wasn't the person they're framing for that, but um I, along with many people, think that it was Israel, but that, we don't know the entire extent of the ruling class's fight among themselves. So, um, anyway, him being so oppositional was just an echo chamber for his own kind. He wasn't converting anyone. He wasn't, saving kids, bringing them to Jesus, because his message was nothing like the message of Christ. And it was so far from it that, Christianity has become like a cult, like it's a political cult. It's nothing to do with it. This is They shouldn't call it that. It's ridiculous. It's like they're hiding their fascism and their racism and things behind the name of religion to protect it, but it's most certainly not. Um, and so like it's really hard for me to want to, um, what would you call it, like to make peace with them because of how much they've harmed me since I was a child. And it's hard for me to make peace with the church because of how much they've harmed me and covered up so much molestation and abuse and things. And I'm talking about the conservative Southern Baptist Church. I know that the Catholic Church is like the poster child for that kind of thing, but that's just like everyone focusing on Mississippi for racism and ignoring Arkansas and Alabama and Georgia, Texas, all of it. Like, the conservative Baptist church is full of so much rampant child sexual abuse and spousal abuse. And um, I mean, I'm permanently scarred and disabled in many ways from it, but so grateful for the lessons that I've learned. Never an excuse for evil, but I'm grateful that you can grow flowers in bullshit. um, But anyway, so I want to be able to find a way to be less offensive, but at the same time, I even question myself. Like, is that part of the same grooming, that we've had where we feel obligated to make peace with people where there can be no peace, or where we feel like we have to compromise for the quote unquote greater good? Like, this is something I have been bringing up to my daughter quite a bit because she has kind of, allowed me to be myself, which is great because I've always wanted her to get to be herself. And um, my parents never could give me that space. So in the process, she's watched me change and grow a lot. Like, being raised in a very, right wing family, it's like a lot of my views and things were from this wounded girl that were abused by men. And it's like, I had to really work with myself. And the question I ask myself a lot is, um, do we deserve the privileges that we have if we can turn a blind eye to the injustices around us? Like, I mean, I ask myself that a lot because we want so bad to just, live a good life and take care of the ones we love and have peace and prosperity. And that's great. Nothing wrong with that. I know there's a lot of people in certain passive communities that teach even that's wrong. You should just let go of everything and let go of your ego and blah, 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 which I will get to. Um, but I also like, yeah, I think I would be so far along financially and in school or work if I would just focus on us, just take care of me, and not do what I'm doing right now. But there is a fire in my bones, much like Jeremiah in the Bible or whoever, it's like a fire is in me. And it's like, I feel as though I don't have the right to a good future if I'm going to stay silent in the midst of injustice. And there is so much pain and suffering going on. And, and I don't think using spirituality as a cop out to avoid it is okay. Like, say, oh, well, you're just on the wrong timeline, so jump timelines. There's no pain and suffering there. So everyone that's dying in Gaza, they must just be on the wrong timeline. It's like, no, And if there's one thing that I have kind of thought a long time ago, is that like timelines are probably a lot more like frequencies. Like we like to, some spiritual people are like, oh, you hopped in a totally different universe, right? Probably, and yet not at the same time, which is how most things work. When I've gone to really haunted places that seem very cursed and very negative and evil to most people, I can also feel the very good and holiness and sacred there that has been desecrated, and it's just very defensive of the land. And yes, there are some places that are bad and they're just evil, and there's not much you can do about it because, it's been so desecrated that anything good has left. And, the only thing that is harboring is like demonic, dark forces. Um, but a lot of times, what men perceive as like evil is just very protective spirits. And it doesn't mean there isn't demons that are kind of there on a different, like, plane. Okay. That's what I mean by like parallel, there's almost like parallel timelines or parallel universes and not just like a different version of us, but I mean like literally running alongside each other where if you were to hop through very many dimensions, like right here, right now where I'm at, say there could be, um, there's always spiritual influences. Okay. And there could be like my ancestral spirits, and there could be like actual earthbound spirits and elemental spirits all around me right now, ghosts and things, right? Then there could be spirits that are like even ancestors that are more um, crossed over and in a higher level of the heavens that are also here with me. And like angels and other beings that are so multidimensional and multifaceted that we would just see them as very similar to like you know, um, the symbols that they've drawn that look like the Metatron symbol and things. They're just not even a shape. It's like they're just pure energy. And all of these things can be, there could be a demon or hag thing watching me from outside the window or something. I can't get in because I've got my place spiritually locked up. And, she's on a very low vibration or something like, there could be so much at once going on, but it's like what you choose to tune into has a great effect on how you feel, your energy levels, your mental state of mind, your emotions, and, um, you know, where you go next. And it's the same. I feel like timelines are kind of like that too. Like I felt like I had recently kind of jumped timelines, is how I called it, because it's just the shift was unreal. And I knew I had shifted something, but I had to make the decision to not be afraid and to go after what I really wanted. And I had to be proactive about it. And I know the shift happened and it's amazing. But you still have to put in the work. And um I guess something that really like I don't know, I was reading something today and the author had gone on and on about like, separating yourself from ego and how pleasure and pain and all of these things is because of ego. And if you really reconnect to source, this physical world around you is an illusion. Everything's an illusion. You just let it all go. You have no free will. There is no such thing as self-control and free will. You're just one tiny facet of the source that is controlling all things. So you may as well just let fucking go, right? And it was a really, really sad cop out to just fucking, suckle your thumb in the teat of Mother Earth without being responsible or accountable for what you do with your life. And yeah, you'll return to source that way for sure, but you will cease to exist. Like, the great creator is the beginning and the end of all of us. It says it in the Bhagavad Gita. First off, this author had completely appropriated ancient Hindu and texts like the Gita and didn't give them any credit. It was obvious that they're one of those typical like white, young women that yank a script to some text and they just like, they've woken up and they're awake. I mean, I guess I was there, like, I know when I tried so hard to be spiritual and I was like my late teens, early 20s, I really because I didn't know how neurodivergent I was. I wasn't taught about this stuff. I was just told I was a problem child. And so I took things really, really literally. I took everything super literally. Took what, the Bible had chosen to put in of what Christ said, which is probably very little. And, tried to turn the other cheek and tried not to fight back. Like, I remember even when I was raped, and it was like more than one person because I was abused a lot. And I remember like how, one guy I was raped by, like, I just cried and begged him not to do it, but I didn't fight back. And I think I eventually did try to push him off slightly, but it was like I was so afraid. And first off, you're taught in school not to because then they like it. And then that's another long story. Then the cop said that was my fault. So that's why I wanted it. But another, like, what was it? A manager, when I was working at Taco Bell, he was all over me and wouldn't stop. And so I just got tired of it and just laid there and let him do it. And it was so funny because it is true. If you don't resist, it's like they go limp, especially if you act totally unamused. So it kind of works. Just completely acted like I was a dead fish staring at the space. And he could not finish, and it was so fucking funny. But he had a little tiny squidgy half chub. Thought he was tough stuff. Um, yes, I have been abused by men enough that I can literally laugh at how pathetic most of them are. I guess y'all are if they're abusive, right? But I mean, like, I've seen some stuff like where they just really show how sad and stupid they are. Um, but I mean, I turn the other cheek too much. Like, I just passively let things happen to me, like I lost where I was living because my abusive first husband wanted to keep the place, and I had to run off because he tried to kill me. I let him keep the birds that we had because I was afraid to fight him over that. I let him do things I shouldn't have, and I let other people do things to me I shouldn't have done. Like I gave in too easily. I gave up too easily. I gave everything I had away too easily. I was trying to literally be like Jesus as much as possible, but as a feminine, which is not a good idea, okay? Because that's how you end up, like, literally getting accused of being like, a prostitute or whatever. And then when you finally say no to a guy, they drag you out in front of everyone and get mad and accuse you of, being a prostitute and want to stone you because you said no for the first time ever. um, but anyway, it's like it took a long time for me to realize that being that passive was unhealthy. And then you do get into the spiritual stuff and how, oh, you want to let go of your ego and you don't want to, um, you know, like the law of attraction thing, like that is, I've talked about that many times. The main reason why I don't like most people that push it is because it's very obvious that they're creating out of their quote unquote ego. And I do genuinely believe that there are, just like there's trickster spirits that are using quote unquote channels, there are very dark demonic entities that are using people like what is it? Like the Leo King and Rich Lop and stuff, and these guys who just want to manifest, the riches and the fame and the boy toys, and they just plow over this planet without considering how destructive and how much they pollute and how much they destroy. And um they come in this world loud. The creator gives them the opportunity to use their masculinity to save and to nurture and to, take care of those who have no voice. But instead, they use it to just feed themselves. And what we do with free will energy is going to be the test, the ultimate test on if the creator even wants us to continue existing. And I know this one author had gone on and said we had no free will because the source controls everything. And I'm like, you are so far wrong. You are so far off the fucking track. Like, and this is from me literally going through so much pain and suffering because the creator wanted to show me the truth. And I'm so beyond blessed and grateful that he's done this for me because um and I've tried to teach this before, and this is so vital that people understand this, that He sacrificed himself to release energy that is neutral. It's neither good nor bad. It just is. And what we choose to do with it is the determining factor on if we get to spend eternity with him. He doesn't want us all returning back to him as these blobs that gave up and have no, free will or desire to do anything. He wants us to choose life and to choose love and to choose him. But he wants us to also choose each other and to choose to have a personality and to have desires. And it's really disturbing how many spiritual things, kind of like, I don't know how you would call it, like demonize having a desire. And again, you got to remember the context. This is written by men of privilege trying to teach other men not to put their dick in everything, okay? Because what is the average man who is not spiritually aware going to do with quote unquote desires? They want to fuck everything, eat everything, drink everything, consume every drug, win every war. The desires are very low base, instinctual kind of things. Humans are not very evolved at all. We've been given the gifts angelically, spiritually, to be exceptionally evolved, but men still have very little self control, which is highly disturbing. Their hormones still pretty much dictate how they respond to life. And if that isn't true, then I don't see why Pornhub and OnlyFans still exist. Why, in the Western world where there is so much processed shit, there's a bunch of obese, nasty slobs walking around. Okay. And I'm not making fun of people for being fat. I'm a little chunky myself because it is difficult to afford healthy food. And I used to think that wasn't true because I lived in a greater Houston area where, you had endless supply of very cheap produce. But much like history, like cities throughout history, like was it Pompeii that was destroyed? Giant cities really are parasitic, and they suction the life out of all the surrounding, countries and rural areas and everything. And the prices are competitive because there's competitive market. But you move out into the middle of the Ouachita Mountains like I have, and everything is exceptionally expensive. And the government deliberately um, kind of creates poverty and gets subsidizes corporations' greed, and then gets people so poor they're on food stamps and Medicaid and whatnot, and then gets mad at them, blames them for that. And in our state, our governor, she has consistently allowed so many lies for embezzlement. Like, they'll put you on Medicaid when you don't want it, you don't need it, didn't apply for it. They'll put your kids on it. They'll put your adult kids on it when they don't want it. But if you need it, they're not going to give it to you because they don't want to actually pay for your healthcare services. What they want is to charge $10,000 a person for health insurance they don't know they have, so they can take federal funding and embezzle it for fancy trips to France and whatnot. So anyway, um, it's like I know, like, we can't be perfect. Like, I know that some of us are going to be overweight, we're not. But what I'm getting at is like, um, if you know that you have fully given in to the desires of the flesh and you're just a lazy, fat, slobby pervert, like my most recent ex, it's like that is definitely a you problem, and why men wrote things like that in the Gita, because they fear having desires. This is why Buddha talked about this stuff. You fear having desires if it's all selfish. But what's really weird is like my desires are not any of those things. It's not sex or reputation or tons of money. I just want to be able to feed the little ones under my care. I just want to be able to feed my daughter and all the animals I've taken in. I just want to keep a roof over our head. I just want to be able to um, save as many things as I possibly can. Like, that's not a bad desire to have. It's not. It's okay to have a personality. It's okay to have desires. It's okay to want. But are your wants good? Or are they for the greater good? Like, I want to save the planet. I want to save the pollinators. And this same author, is like, oh, you're a slave to your desires. And it's like, odd, because my desires somehow seem to set me free. Now, granted, if I was to focus on fear, I would be a slave to the fear that I cannot provide for my little ones. Fear can be a very crippling prison to be in. And so I have to try to take my focus away from that, because I do have, an ex from like a distant past that I've had kids with, that he has done a lot of black magic since he was young, and, did it started when he was on a lot of drugs. And it's like he just um, really has the tendency to want to go after me as a target. And you've also got to remember that if you tell the truth at all, a light worker at all, or if you go against the religion that you're brought up in, like, all the demons involved in that want to take you out too. So you have to do a lot of very, very strong, powerful protection work to take care of yourself. It doesn't make me super special. It's just any of us, which I think we all are exceptionally special. It's just, if you squander the gift of life the spirit gave you, then you do lose your special. Okay. Um, and so, like, I really do want to push the understanding that um, trying to separate yourself from your desires, and trying to separate yourself from your ego, and this obsession with letting go, and, let source control you. Like, I remember wanting so badly, like, when I was really born again, like, I became like a born again Christian at one point. And I remember wanting so badly to please God, that, like, I just would give my life so over, like, just whatever you want, whatever you want. What do you want? What do you want? I'm always asking God, what does he want? What does he want? You know, uh, begging, like, I just, whatever you want to do, I want to do it. Like, anything I could think of to do that was good. Bringing food to homeless people or whatever, I would do it. Just anything, because I was just dying and so thirsty and hungry for pleasing my creator. And, um, I know I did want to bring up, it made me think of a point I was going to make with those channels too, but I don't know if I can remember it, because it's like I said, Queen of Rabbit Holes. There's so much to say and unpack since I don't have a lot of time. Um, oh, I think it was that, when I had talked about how they talk in circles and whatnot and everything, I remember, like, um, when I was empty like that, and I'm not just talking the charlatans doing the channeling, but the people that gravitate towards it. Okay. Because you got to remember, a lot of these charlatans that people are watching, they're making a lot of money doing this fake ass shit. Okay. But they probably started out like the way we did, very empty and seeking something to fill them. And even though I always wanted the Creator and Holy Spirit to fill me, it was like I always had this longing, this space that needed to be filled. Even though I knew the living water had to flow from within me out, it's like I was constantly searching. And this is something I think is an extremely important point to make, that we do, especially if you've been kind of like a Christian converted into spiritual stuff, or even just a diehard Christian. Okay. Um, you don't look for outside sources to tell you what to do. That's the biggest problem with these channels. The biggest problem. And people watching them for guidance. It's like, I love doing tarot readings and things too, but I don't look for outside sources to do the readings, because I understand the law of one, and I understand that, like, it's reflecting to me what I already know, but sometimes we have blind spots because we are so, if you're too much in a state of logic or whatever, sometimes it just helps to kind of get you out of your head. And it does help to have many counselors. So I hate to, like, sit there and say, don't ever look outside yourself, because, we can, like, delude ourselves, right? But what I'm getting at is, like, if you're looking for other things to tell you what to do, you are copping out, as whether a Christian or spiritual or just a person who knows you're one with your creator. And what I mean by that is, I remember when I used to constantly scan my, like, intuition for, should I turn right or should I turn left? Or I remember I used to listen to Joyce Meyer and stuff. My parents pushed me into that. And boy, oh boy, did I hate how it made me so, like, my parents had already broken my intuition and my instincts, because everything that I knew was true. they told me was a lie. And everything that I was so good at psychically and, understanding past lives and prophetic dreams and telepathy and reading animals and plants and spiritual concepts and being able to discern spirits and good and bad and people, like they wiped all that. It was all evil, all bad, all wrong. And they were constantly trying to break my will and my independent thought and my independent little, psychic, like, what do you call it, intuitive radar. And so, like, by the time I had become a born again Christian, it was like, I listened to a lot of Joyce Meyer, and like, she will tell you, believe the best in everyone. Give everyone the benefit of the doubt. Never assume the worst in them. She doesn't say use your intuition. Like, if your radar is going off and this is a bad person, like, she might have said that once, but for the most part, no. Because she'll say, like, even like, the psychics are fake. And you always know when someone doesn't know what they're talking about when they say that stuff. Because, like, psychics have literally found bodies. And it's like, yeah, so we don't know lottery numbers, and I've said this a million times. Our greatest strength is our greatest weakness, too. And I know there was that one episode on the Medium where, the kid asked, like, why don't you know us, our future? And she's like, well, then it wouldn't be a fair advantage, And it's true. Just because you have a little bit more psychic abilities than others doesn't mean you're going to be given a free ride or be able to read everyone or know everything. That's just not how it works. If it did, would we really be here? Like, we'd be off on the Bahamas somewhere, sipping our, like, drinks and getting all the lottery stuff. And it's like, what would be the point of living, if it was predictable? But anyway, the point I'm getting at is, like, I remember being so eager to please my creator that I was constantly scanning my body and my intuition. Okay. In this time period when I was like listening to Joyce Meyer, trying to please my parents, trying to be the perfect wife, the perfect mother. And I constantly felt like I had so much anxiety and had so much like fight or flight because I felt like I was never good enough. I felt like I was never, because both my parents and my ex at the time made me feel that way too. It's like I was never, like, I had to have the house spotless all the time. I was getting very sick and weak from the pregnancies, but it was like, and of course, them feeding off of me. But it was like I wasn't allowed to take care of me. Like, my husband wouldn't put me on insurance. My parents didn't give two shits. It was like, um, I was their servant. My only role was to serve them and be a good mom. And I was in that frame of mind because that's all I knew. And I wanted so bad to be a good person and please my creator. I was so grateful for everything I had that I just wanted to give and give. And like, I remember always scanning. And I remember like moments whenever, um, if I didn't turn the buggy this way, or if I didn't park the car here, and anything would slightly go wrong, I would be like, oh, okay, I need to listen better. Like, I need to listen better and make sure I'm always doing what I'm told. And because Joyce Meyer would teach these things like, oh, the Holy Spirit cares about everything you do. So I even pray about doing my hair and all this stuff. And please help me do my hair right. And like, I became such a tool and such a follower. And I believe, I genuinely do. From experience, this is not, I hate when people say, oh, I do believe in this or don't believe in that, but they don't have any rational kind of experience or anything at all to back it up. It's just, they just have this belief, right? But I mean, I experienced it's like these entities are these false angelic beings that were trying to control every aspect of my life. And these, to me, I believe, are demonic, dark entities that feed off of like religious and spiritual people who were very, very broken and eager to please. And they hunt us down. I mean, they love it. We are like the juiciest, freshest blood and morsels. And when we break free of that, it angers them so much. They will do anything to keep us stuck in that because we taste so good. Because when you're actually like, like you're like a young, fresh sacrifice when they sacrifice a young calf, because you taste so innocent and vulnerable and is so delicious and they just can't get enough of it. So when you start actually asserting independence, And because, like, you have the spirits that feed off of the egotistical pigs that have to have everything and demand to get their way and stomp around to get it, manifest their boy toys. But you also have the entities that feed off of us who are the enabling people pleasers. And that's what we are. That's what I was. An enabling people pleaser. And even though I had been abused and raped and assaulted so many times, um, so many women become enablers of men doing the same thing to their own kids if you aren't careful. And that is where I had to really step up to the plate and be a mama bear and say no. When I noticed my most recent ex was eyeing my daughter and has showing a lot of signs of being a child predator. Um, and it's like, when the kid's dad was abusing the kids a certain way, standing up to him. And it's like, I've really had to learn over the years. First, it was for my kids, but then it was like for everyone in the greater good, that being passive and being an enabler it is evil and vile. It is its own evil. Okay. And there's so much suffering that even my kids went through because I did not assert myself fast enough, soon enough, and aggressively enough. And even though I did, damage had been done. And um I don't want other people to make that same mistake. And for these people to try to write with authority and tell you that you should be passive and not try anything because the source is controlling you anyway. When I read that this morning, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna have to do something on this because um, I'm concerned about people." Here's the thing: is the source is not controlling you. He sure as fuck is not controlling you. And even though the source is in all things, he released free will energy for us to have free will. There most certainly is free will. This person was saying that there isn't. That is a lie. That is a flat out, bull-faced lie. Um, Now, are we being corralled like cattle? Yes. Are there many forces at play trying to prevent us from having free will? You betcha. But that is why this is so dangerous. This ideology that they're teaching, this appropriating of ancient texts written by men for men, and also um, misinterpreting it into modern American English form, and using it as a cop out because of their privilege, because they want to be able to spoon feed themselves passivity and make themselves feel like they're enlightened. Um, the Creator has no space for you. He does not want you. You are nothing to Him. You will cease to exist. Does that sound cruel? I know it does. It's true. Um, and I'm not saying that the Creator doesn't love you. What I'm saying is that you are literally severing yourself from the Creator when you choose to turn a blind eye to the suffering because you want to suckle a pacifier and say, "Oh, well, he's controlling everything anyway, so like it doesn't matter. I'm just cop out." No, honey. And you can't use your, "Oh, well, you don't want to have desires or focus on pleasure or pain. Just let it all go." It's like, that's not why we're here. We're not here to experience life to not live. You need to live it in the here and the now to live it. Have a little bit of ego, have a lot of spirit, have some courage, some curiosity, and by all means, live your life. Challenge yourself. What is your heart's deepest desire? If your heart's deepest desire is to be on OnlyFans, then you've got some issues, But if your heart's deepest desire is something good, something beautiful, if it's to have a permaculture food forest and to, reignite pollinators and to, nurture the lost or the homeless, like that's not a bad desire to have. Go after it. You want to get a degree in conservation, do it. You want to be able to, take clothes from thrift stores and sew them and make something new and then sell it so people aren't buying fast fashion. Do it. it Enjoy it. Enjoy being human. That's what the Creator wants. He wants us to spread our wings and fly. He also wants us to wipe our own asses. Okay? That's why we have to be spiritually accountable. There are so many forces at play. There is no passivity that's going to get you out of this. There is no floating back to source by avoiding responsibility and accountability. Um, like if you feel like you're being controlled at all, 99% chance it's not the creator. Okay. If we're fortunate, our ancestors and the creator are kind of crawling us out of danger and into something good because they know what our higher self really wants. But there are so many forces fighting for control that if you want to be a fish floating down river and you're not even dead yet, you're going to be hitting waterfalls and rocks and you're going to be skinned up and beat up. And if you want to avoid all of the pain and suffering that, a salmon goes through to go upriver, you're still going to end up the same way, but you'll have nothing to show for it. Um, Anyway, let me just peek at my notes real fast. I know I've already talked almost an hour, so I want to kind of make sure I'm not missing anything. Let's see if I going through that, because I didn't write down many notes. I don't have a lot of time, but I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Oh yeah, I did want to go over when I mentioned the whole mama bear thing. And I mentioned on privilege blinds. We are, of course, I mentioned this, groomed and conditioned to let go, to forgive, to don't judge. All of that is to enable abuse, to enable genocide, to enable animal abuse, unnecessary slaughter, to enable child abuse behind closed doors, spousal abuse. These are what predators say, and the enablers of predators, the flying monkeys, to make you not look. Okay? By all means, judge. Learn how to do it. Yes, judge and thou shalt be judged. So think twice before you judge over petty things. But it's also as above, so below. So are you going to decide to judge things which are evil and condemn it, knowing that you have the spiritual authority to do so and to hold judgment on it? Or are you going to become part of the problem and also be judged yourself for refusing to have the courage to stand up to what you know is evil? A mother bear is going to defend her babies. Mother Earth is going to do the same thing. Now, we have, this kind of cultural conditioning to not promote violence and that love isn't violent and whatnot. And I disagree in so many ways. Again, written for men by men who do have a problem with too much violence. But as women, we have to learn to have more, and those of us who are women, and those of you who, want to empower women, you have to have the audacity to call things out, even if those people and those things will accuse you of inciting violence or promoting violence or being violent. And calling things out is not inciting violence, but at the same time, there will be a point when we just might have to incite violence. And what I mean by that is if things were to get worse, which I do think that they will, and the reason why I say that is I'm not sure if I'm going to release it before this one because the audio is a bit janky, but it is because I was driving. And it's about men and magic and how like dangerous it is for men to be wielding magic because they don't really have the spiritual authority to do so, especially if you're given a lot of physical privilege. You don't really have the, you know, need to be trying to wield magic, right? But a lot of men have actually tried to cheat through life by trying to do all the hermetic brotherhoods and do all the sigils and all these things. Well, anyway, uh hope I don't get lost. This is, like I said, so much to unpack. So um if these men are doing these things, we as women, um we may not be able to be violent in the way that men are, but we might need to alter the tides. And if society goes the way I think is going to go, because of men abusing magic and authority, and the ruling class has been abusing magic, and they don't have the authority to do so. We're going to be collapsing, you know, we are. And a lot of people can sense it and they can feel it. They know it's coming. That as a society, we're probably going to collapse economically and very likely, quote unquote, natural disaster, some of which may not be so natural. Um, there's going to come a time where things get, you know, a bit like, what would you call it? Every man for himself. And if those days come, what will you do then? Are you going to just sit there and suckle your thumb while your children are being raped and molested because you don't want to get in the way of the people raiding your house? Are you going to be a mother bear and fight to the death? No, for me, it's like, even if you take me out, I will never stop fighting. And I'm not just talking my own children, I mean for this planet. Like, I have zero desire to flutter off to heaven and be a little cherub and live in paradise and leave the suffering here. Like, none. And I'm just going to end up being like so many of these other deities and nature spirits, where I'm going to guard and protect it with every ounce of my being until the balance is fully restored, because the balance is so out of whack right now. It's too congested with dark entities and dark energies and bad magic that's not there's no room for it on this planet. And energy's been released, neutral energy, for us to do as we please, and free will is there for a reason. But we also have to choose the very opposite of passivity and selfish manifestation. We have to choose to fight this war. And it doesn't have to be like physical violence. I really don't think most of us are going to have to get our hands dirty for the transition. Now, if there is a collapse, we might have to, and like I said, in self-defense or something. But the point I'm getting at is that, like, we have to want to fight for this planet. This planet is meant to be a beautiful, like, training ground for the soul, and a beautiful transition place, and where the physical and the spiritual intertwine in this gorgeous marriage of both mortal and immortal. And everything about this planet is divine. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Everything about this life on earth is too. It's not just a simulation. Most of the people that tell you that live in so much privilege that they have been so disassociated from nature that they're dead while they live. And live every moment knowing how fortunate we are to be here in this plan, this divine plan to create and to be one with our Creator for eternity, to be a part of something, to keep yourself, to keep your identity, to keep who you know you are for eternity. Like, this is an amazing place to be in, but it's also a very, very sad, dark place currently because of all the evil that's gone on. And we have to choose to use free will energy to rid the earth of it, to say, no, there's no room for you here. There's no room for the greed, the corruption, the evil, the perversity, the ruling class that has been absolutely destroying this planet, and all the congested dark spirits that just want to hide here because they don't want what's coming for them. And I know I've mentioned this multiple times since I've started doing any type of teaching, is that, like, you know, when you're not connected to source, to love, you know, you have to feed off of that which is. And these things feed off of us because we let them. And we have to take our power back. We do. We are enabling evil and darkness, and we're doing the same thing when we just clock in and clock out every day, and we, you know, allow the ruling class to abuse our children and our planet. And we give our power away. And that's not noble. That's not good. That's not Christian. That's not, you know, religious or spiritual or positive. It's corrupt. It's vile. It's evil. Enabling evil is its own dark fucking evil. And Let's see. I just want to look at see if there's any more notes. I'm trying to wrap things up. I'm sorry I can talk for a long time, but my throat just let me know it is done. um okay, I already went over many energies fighting for control. Yeah, like if you were to live like this person's telling us to live, to just let the source control us, like you're just collateral. That is all you are. You are not worth much of anything. And when you were to die, your creator and your ancestors are going to be like, we gave you every chance to live and you just laid on your ass and did nothing. I mean, what do you think is going to happen to you? And you want to trade like your free will because you want to say cop out and say you have none. You want to trade it for comfort and illusion. You know, the simulation is what you're creating right now because you're too afraid to live. And all these half truths, they really are, they're lies, right? So let's see. Yes, I think I really do want to wrap it up with we are to nurture and protect the physical and this planet. And we're failing and we're enabling destruction. If anything, our role here is to nurture and to take care of this place. Do we really deserve an eternal afterlife anywhere without pleasure or pain or whatever they say is the ego, without pain and only pleasure, if we cannot do our job here? The simple fact is we could already have heaven on earth here if we didn't squander it by enabling assholes and, um, you know, copping out and wanting comfort. And I know there's people that'll say, what? How would it be heaven here? There's mosquitoes and fire ants and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, that's because you freaking like killed off all the indigenous that knew how to handle it. Okay. I've mentioned this before too. Like you go to the Amazon, go to places where the indigenous cultures have not been completely wiped out. They know how to live in complete harmony with nature. Doesn't bother them one bit. I'm sorry, but no, there is no excuse not to already have created heaven on earth. To both be fully aware that we are wrapped in both the immortal and the mortal right here, right now. We're both in time and space and outside of it, right here, right now. We both are the creator inside of us, and we are ourselves. I know Jesus tried to teach us this. I know that he probably learned that from traveling to the Far East and to other places, and it irked me when these occult creeps try to use that as an excuse. And I won't even get into that too much. I think I went into a little bit on the one with the whole minute magic thing, but anyway, I challenge you to live fully, to be accountable, to manifest and learn to create for the greater good. And I know that you'll hear a lot of spiritual people always talking about the greater good, whether it's doing magic or tarot or channeling. But, I challenge you too, to test the spirits. Listen to those channels closely and see what they have to say. And go back and listen to what they said 6 years ago. See how much of it came true. I guess until next time, I'll see you later.